Hommage à Rameau. Pourquoi Rameau? Ce n'est pas Rameau, c'est tout Rameau. Mon pays, c'est Rameau. When Debussy pays tribute to Rameau, it's not about the harmony treatise, the operas, the religious works, the harpsichord works, the chamber works. It's about the lost friends, where the civil war following the 1789 revolution beheaded generations, recapturing that spirit of the claveciniste and reconnecting to the great age of France was Debussy's project. But I think that musically it is just for the title. I know the tentation in French, the temptation of the tombeau, to pay homage to the great ones who died, like Tombeau de Couperin, as Ravel would write, to the same, I would say, neo-Baroque or neoclassical idea. But Debussy, besides the title, doesn't do any quote of any music by Rameau. It's more about a certain state of mind, the mystique, the symbolism, and the need to reconnect with the roots of the French musical tradition that was interrupted so cruelly. The Revolution, the Napoleonic Wars, the 1870 war against Prussia, France almost twice disappearing from the map of the world and through history, but mostly through culture, reinstating France in its right place, equal to the great German continuum that goes from way before Bach into way after everybody. In other words, continuously so. Even if Brahms looks back, Schoenberg looks up, forward. In France, Ravel could be neoclassical, Debussy more modernistic, Fauré being traditional, different ways to express what is the meaning of dissonances, consonances, past, present, and how we deal with tensions and releases, with tonalism, atonalism. It doesn't matter the guaranteed solution of the grammar. Okay, it's interesting to learn, study, but I think when you listen to the evocation by the fourths in the leitmotif of the opening of this Hommage à Rameau in Book 1 of Debussy's Images, it's very distant, it's not soft, it's very intense, but very far away. It's unharmonized, it's sung, it's a Gregorian chant, it's mystical, it's mysterious, and is notated in equal bar numbers as if the thought process is sliced like salami, when in fact when you hear it, it's just thrusts of gestures of driven group of notes to say something meaningful, perhaps who am I? Where am I going in this life? Some kind of introspective soliloquy. And once this is said and stated, in a way, the leitmotif of Mussorgsky's pictures also uses fourths, but more factual, is a signature of the piece by the person who visits the exhibit. Whenever here, it's more mysterious, but uses also a motivic way to recognize it. You know, it's possible to teach to explain everything, but you ultimately cannot explain the innuendo of what is hinted, meant, suggested, that is part of the hesitance, part of the duality of every life, and therefore of every expression of one's life's yearnings. When he plays it's way more than parallel chords. It's way more than repeated notes. kind of minimalistic, motivic situation that is closer to a ostinato all over the place. And of course echo cells that never develop but just repeat. And inside the group of bars of chords, you have a flux and reflux. Nothing is static, but the notation is cold. In a way, the warmth, the emotion, the intensity, the elevation of the spirit is not notatable. And of course, if you give examples about rubato, people will say, why too much or not enough, or am I supposed to and why? And then you start explaining, yes, it's before the beat, it's on the beat. The triplet should be faster than the ratio of the triplet and not. And if you depart too much of the factual notation, which is not always a translation of the musical thought of the composer, and you just played it by thrusts, like you exhale, inhale, reminiscent something, or hoping for something, it should become almost barless and just notated for its punctuation by the direction of the lines and the phrases. And Debussy doesn't develop, but he recalls motivic elements even. When he builds the big second page climax, and then returns to the lonely opening melody, theme, this time harmonized modally. Mademoiselle Boulanger hated profoundly harmonizing Gregorian or any, for the Catholic Church, hymns. She found that it's better to sing them a cappella with the Gregorian style parallel fifths, and not do romanticizing late 19th century the accompaniment for the chants of the church. And here, if that was the chant, here harmonizes Debussy. Every time I play that section, I feel like, ooh, why? I don't want that. I liked so much the loneliness of this voice, and then the chordal. So yes, we have this kind of G sharp minor more or less, well, less than more obviously, but when it becomes explicative, 251, quand même pas, enfin, pourquoi pas, who are we? Nobody. Who is he? Everything. Debussy heard it before us, composed it before us, and left it for us. What a gift. So of course, any innuendo can become overexpressed. Theater directors will say, don't say to be or not to be. Just say it simply. But simple doesn't mean straightforward. Sometimes you can look at the way this pattern is written. 2 8 notes, triplet, dotted 8th note, or double dot with the 32nd. So if you think it by beat, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Conductors do pulse because they don't play the instruments. When you play the instrument, the energy, the synergy that it takes, or basically the industry of playing, sometimes you think through your fingers. You count through your fingers by their emotion and emotion. And so you can float in some kind of undetermined meter. Oh, how many things there are in this piece. How much of their human soul the composers put in between the notes of their notation, which is in a relative way a pale copy of the real inside that they had which is not notatable, because if you do that, the hint is an exaggeration, and when you teach the example, then you exaggerate to make your point, then you play as a teacher to prove, but you don't play as a musician just to enjoy, to hear, like a child discovering the sounds of words before you put meaning on them, and just enjoy the music of the sounds, and not just the meaning of the words, and then science, and then factual things. Of course, you can always daydream, you can always go higher with your everybody's wish to defeat the finitude through poetry, religiousness, any kind of spiritual elevation. No, the body doesn't end, the decay doesn't happen. There is a spirit that survives, and here it's a spirit called from the old French. But even if we take out the context and we don't know anything about it and we hear that, it doesn't matter. The music is only what it is itself. It doesn't need to be explained. Though paradoxically, I spend my time in my life explaining it. And the more I try, the more I lose. Just here. This chord. And then. And when you hear this G-sharp ostinato, the call of the anticipation of the E-sharp, and the harmonization minor in this hop of major, and the typical Debussy defeat, almost, but no. You reset down the dynamics, but you still continue the phrase. So it's not a colorization, and then you anticipate. This harmonization, and I wonder if it's orchestral, because in that sense you don't have a drop in the rise, you have just change of color, pointillistic, a spot here, a touch of light there, a touch of dark here, and it's all about emotions through which you navigate in this dark path, and you hope. It's driving without headlights, and all of a sudden something appears to you, and then you're startled. I think it's a lot of inconsequential sequences in this sort of improvisatory piece, where you don't want and shouldn't try to make sense, melodically, motivically developing the theme. Or in a waltz. It's much less ambiguous, super refined, incredibly driven, Beethoven, Chopin example. But in here, it's you don't know when to expect to reach the climax towards which you tend to drive yourself. Of course not. Pizzicati with wet pedal. Finally, we reached that climax through the whole tone scale, and not on the arrival point dominant of tonic, whatever he is. Major ninth. Dominant of C major that comes out of all this dark search yearning. arpeggios are amazing. The order of the harmonics. As if he doesn't care that he's no more in G and C and whatever. It's just like children, as I said earlier, they hear sounds, they don't hear meanings. They just enjoy the sound of this and of this and this before, and then into it, and then the arpeggio. Each arrival chord is softer, not by dynamic calculation, but it's just emotional return to this loneliness of the opening theme. But this time harmonized. That was not the right harmony, Mr. Narloff. Thank you. As Mademoiselle Boulanger would say, si au ténor. Because the middle voices matter so much more than the outer voices if you follow them. And then the pizzicato. And the theme that this time is not harmonized by chords like the second time after the first plain chant style only. And this is almost impossible to reach. The C sharp, beautiful, the C double sharp, and the G sharp of the tritone, and then the tritones down, tenor, and the pizzicato on the D sharp. Probably even Debussy, right there arpeggiated, either dropped something on the way to hold everything. But he would not sacrifice the display. He could have bunched it. Instead of. It's not about second guessing him or he should have, he shouldn't, and because he did, of course, is great. But it helps when you play it to imagine that it makes some kind of sense to you. If you like to be always surprised by the style fantasque and the recap. This time the trees and the wind shivering on the top leaves seem so much more tired after the first time where you felt they're sort of fleeing unsettled. Of course, in Brahms's intermezzo is so much more thematical and connected to the mood at the same time, so dramatic and so good. So marvelous and so amazing, so human, so touching, so representing all what we yearn for: hope, tenderness, drive, and then disappointment, deception, and try again, and don't leave, not start, how come, why, where. And he does very well this kind of moody things. Debussy remains more not active as much. Even the climax was very active. But he remains always observing, as if he's watching from outside the box. That opening, that module of the opening, this fragment. And it represents more the regret after the middle section. The motivic element is like as if he's displaying the whole painting in front of you, from the canvas to the details to the meaningful action if it's depicted as such, or the characters and the general mood, everything. Life in music, music in life, theater in music, music in life, art artificially, of course not naturally in the sense of simple everyday talk, but still becoming that. A whisper and an avowal is so much more meaningful when it's said so low voice. And yet the coda, the chorale, always ostinato, but suspended. A hint of the opening in the motif. Like harp and muted brass. And the last time the theme from the first note. Harmonized with a half diminished chord this time. It has to be brought out even if it's nested inside the chord, because it's nested. Mon Dieu que c'est beau. It's beautiful like an ever-ending sunset. Major nor minor, who knows? And then triple pianissimo, never enough pianissimo, a whisper, a sigh. Thank you.